Welcome to the Commerce Lab, where every week we sit down with top performing consumer brands and leaders to understand what drives their success. How did they hit their first million, their first 20 million, their first 100 million? What strategies are working for them today that you should be testing, and what's not working that you should be avoiding? This isn't just a podcast, it's the business school for brand operators. Hey crew, welcome back to another episode of the Commerce Lab. Today, we've got a guest in a brand that I've been wanting to have on the show for a little while now. It's someone that we actually had the pleasure of working with over at Blue Stout and have been very impressed and inspired by their story and what they've been able to build over the last few years. And that brand is called SandCloud, and sandcloud.com. And one of their co-founders is a guy by the name of Stephen Ford. And what SandCloud and Stephen and the rest of his co-founders have done incredibly well is something that I think a lot of brands right now are trying to do in this age of high customer acquisition costs and finding that you cannot simply rely on performance or paid marketing spend to grow your sales. Brands are trying to find other channels and other ways to go out and continue to scale. And something that SandCloud has done from day one is focus on brand and focus on community building. In fact, they hit their first 7 figures in revenue, right? They hit their first $1 million in revenue without spending a single dollar on marketing, performance marketing, paid marketing, ad acquisition. Everything they did to hit that first $1 million in revenue was focused exclusively on building a community, specifically building an ambassador program. We talk about how Stephen and his co-founders actually went out and manually hustled to build this ambassador program over the first couple of years, and how that's created an incredible amount of leverage for them to then layer things like performance marketing on top of and influencer marketing on top of. So in the episode today, if nothing else, please at least listen to the section that Stephen talks about how they built this ambassador program, because there's something that every brand can take out of that to build a community and a story around your own products and your own brand. A few of the other things we break down, Shark Tank and SandCloud's experience going on Shark Tank and how they viewed Shark Tank as a leverage point to help propel them into the upper 7 figures in revenue. We also talk about what's working right now. You know, things have changed a lot over the last few years, especially over the last 5 years since SandCloud was started. What has worked for them in the past that is not working anymore? And what do they see as opportunities going forward that they want to highly leverage to help them hit that next big revenue milestone? So that's all I'll share for right now. I have to jump in and actually listen to the rest of the episode. It's a fantastic one. Stephen shares a ton of inside information around what they've done and what's worked for them that's going to be highly effective and helpful for you as you guys continue to grow your businesses and your brands. So I will leave it at that. And without further ado, Stephen Ford of SandCloud. Hey, Stephen, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, I've been wanting to have you on for a while now, ever since we started working together earlier in the year, because I love your story. And to give everybody just a little bit of context before we dive into the weeds, could you give everybody just a little bit of an intro about who you are, what you do, and what you guys do at SandCloud?
For sure. So my name's Steven. So I started the brand SandCloud 5 years ago now with two of my best friends. And we started simply with the idea to make better beach towels, and really build it around the mission of giving back to marine life. And so we donate 10% of our profits. And as we've grown our business, we've transitioned and been able to create more sustainable products and really focus on the sustainable end of our business.
And so, and I want to dive into kind of specifically what you mean by sustainable here in a little bit. And I also want to really talk about, because you guys have grown very quickly over the last 5 years and seen some tremendous success. And we're going to dive into kind of what those inflection points were along the way. But something I found really, really fascinating is that you did start this with friends. And I think we see a lot of times you see, co-founder fallout and issues with people finding co-founders. And so maybe if you can just spend a couple minutes and just kind of, let's talk a little about how did you guys start this? Where did the idea come from? Were you guys all working together? Was this an idea you guys had just been sort of thinking about for a long time? Or what was that main sort of catalyst for you guys to go into business together?
Fortunately to say, we're still best friends, 5 years in. But when we first started out, we were actually, the three of us were working together in a call center. And so just about the polar opposite, we were doing phone sales, selling life insurance, working together, and living in San Diego. Kind of the one break that we always had and that we always made time for was going to the beach. And one day it really just hit us. We saw this opportunity that no one was focused on making beach towels. No one was doing anything different, doing anything new, and really making them something special. And so that was enough to get us to want to quit our jobs. And so pretty much right away, we quit our jobs. We moved in together. We started walking the beaches every day, driving Uber just to kind of survive, really. And then just spent all day, every day focused on how can we make products, how can we grow a following, and just how can we actually create a business.
And how long did it take you from kind of idea, quitting the job, to actually launching a store and selling the towels? Because towels were the first product, right?
Towels were the first product, yeah. And so it probably took I would say about 1 to 2 months to actually get our first products. And then once we had that, instantly we just started, selling to friends, selling to family, selling on the beach. We created the first version of our website where it was honestly terrible, but it was enough to at least take a sale.
And what year was this? When did you guys launch?
We launched over in 2014. Okay.
Wow. So it has been exactly 5 years or so since you guys launched the first store. And just so everybody has a little bit of context, the towels we're talking about how would you describe them? They're kind of like a Turkish towel style towel, right? The beach towel.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the great things is they're Turkish towels, so easier to travel with. They're lighter weight. One of the cool features is sand doesn't stick to them. So they're sand repellent. So we made a ton of content around that. They get softer and more absorbent as you wash them. And so as we kind of researched it and, really try to figure out what towels are out there and, what makes towels great and what makes them better, we came across Turkish towels because Turkish towels are historically one of the most traditional towels, one of the best overall towels. And so that's basically where we got the idea. And then we started just focusing on the designs to, from mandala prints to tie-dyes and whatever sort of styles we can put on it. We've just been focused on making them better.
And I've seen them, and they're an awesome product. But I think and we see this all the time, it's not that it's easy to make a great product, but there's a lot of people out there that make great product, right? And so ultimately the idea is you got to get out and distribute it. And everybody who's listening to this show understands that because they're in this line of work, they're in their space. And so what I always like to tap into and talk about is, what are the inflection points and what did you guys figure out that worked really well to hit those different milestones? And let's use revenue milestones as sort of kind of markers. So what did you guys do to get to that first $1 million in revenue? What was if you had to kind of think back and deconstruct for your side, I'm sure you tried a bunch of different things. What really worked, and what would you recommend for people that are in the same position trying to hit that first 7-figure mark?
For sure. So, for us, we literally tried everything. At the beginning, we tried anything from selling in stores to selling in person to selling at farmers markets, going on, campuses and doing presentations. And really most of them didn't work. But one thing that we did see success with and, caught on kind of quickly was growing through social media. And so for us, really just focusing on building a team of ambassadors and building a community on social media, on Instagram, was how we hit that first $1 million. And our ambassador program, what we would do is we would basically reach out directly through Instagram to find ambassadors. And we would message probably thousands of people every single week to invite them in our community, invite them to become an ambassador. And really as an ambassador, they would they would be a part of building the brand. They'd be a part of choosing the designs and the products that they liked. They got discounts to recite and discounts to share with friends and family. And that right there was really the idea and the concept of how we got to our first $1 million.
So let's break that down, because I think that's fascinating. It's one of the things I think you guys do better than anybody else is this ambassador program. And I didn't realize that was something that started, really early on in the first couple of years that helped get you traction. So let's get like really tactical. So when you said you guys were messaging folks, do you mean like you were literally getting on Instagram and like just like finding people and following them and like DMing them? Was that what the approach was?
That's exactly what it was. And so back 5 years ago, back in 2014, it was pretty much like, it was like the Wild West of Instagram. There wasn't really restrictions. It wasn't really like algorithm holdups or anything. And so you could actually message infinitely without being blocked. And we took full advantage of that. So we would, what we'd do is we would essentially find different profiles or different, like school clubs and all that, and find where our demographic was. And once we figured that out, then we would just literally go through the people that are engaging with that account, go through the people that are following that account, and just go one by one and find everyone that kind of fit that same lifestyle that we're going for, fit the beach lifestyle, fit the cause-based people that look like they cared about our environment, about marine life. And we would have messages already set up that we would just send to every single person. And we were just doing this day in, day out, thousands at a time.
That's unbelievable. How long did you guys do that for?
We did this aggressively for probably a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just pure hustle. That's incredible. And so these ambassadors, tell me about, so what did that early program look like? Were the ambassadors the ones that were actually making the majority of the purchases from you guys in the early days? Or were they really the ones that were spreading the word and the purchases and sales are coming from kind of the effect of them sharing the brand?
Yeah. So it was both.
Okay.
Sales from the ambassadors, it was probably maybe half the sales. And then the other half was really coming from them sharing it, sharing it in their schools, in their communities, with family, with friends. Because a lot of times what would happen is they'd be excited about, joining the community, joining the team. And then they'd share it. They'd share it on their social media. They'd talk about it, with their friends, let them know what's going on. And then we saw that kind of web effect, and it was driving more and more people, and we were seeing it grow faster than just strictly the people we're reaching out to.
And how did you cultivate this? So when you said you'd add them to the program, like what did that actually look like? Did you guys form like a Facebook group? Was this like a Slack channel? Like how did you guys communicate to the ambassadors, in a private way that kind of built the community around it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we did it in a few ways. One is we set up essentially like an email sequence, email flow that once they come to our site, sign up to become an ambassador through the landing page, then it would hit a series of emails. And so the first one being that they were accepted, and then it would provide them pretty much all the information about, the perks of being an ambassador. It would have links to the different groups. And so, we have an Instagram group for them. We have a Facebook group for them. And so really just finding these different channels that we can communicate directly with them is how we've been able to communicate. And so we'll post up votes on what products they want to see from us. We'll post up votes of, do you guys like this design or this design, and get that feedback, which one is great because they're more vested. They're part of choosing the designs. And then on top of that, we also have a much better idea of what's actually gonna work.
Yeah. How big is the ambassador pool today?
So since inception, since we've started, we've had over 500,000 people sign up to become an ambassador.
Wow. So that's an incredible pool for testing and kind of sourcing product ideas, running polls to determine, before you launch something new, whether or not it's actually going to work and people are going to buy it. Have you found that the predictions or the feedback that comes from that program is pretty accurate for what you launch into the market?
Yeah. It's been a really good gauge for what's going to be successful, what's going to work. Typically the best pulled things from those groups have become our best sellers. So it's usually a really good gauge for what to bet bigger on, essentially.
That's awesome. It's something that we talk about a lot is, in the era that we're in right now with customer acquisition costs going through the roof, with ad platforms like Facebook and Instagram, like the cost to pull on a customer is so much higher than it used to be that I guess I should even back up and say, like, the low cost of acquisition actually just made it, I think, less important, or brands thought it was less important to build out those very natural communities and brand stories with their audience. It just wasn't as, because you can go out and you could throw a bunch of money at Facebook and Instagram, and as long as you're profitable in the back end of it, you could just keep doing that on repeat. Now, as those costs have gone up, it's becoming much more apparent that you need to have a much more robust brand story in order to build out that viral effect, build out the friend referral effect. And if you can build a really engaged community around a brand, that's really the holy grail. And you guys kind of just did that right from the bat, even during this time where acquisition through paid channels was really affordable. So you guys were kind of ahead of the curve in terms of thinking about the long-term longevity of the brand and building a community around it.
Exactly. I mean, that's a huge thing. Like with us, I mean, one of the fortunate things was we started with this. And so we didn't even get into really digital advertising and Facebook, Instagram ads until we were already at $1 million in sales. And so once we found
you guys didn't do any paid performance marketing until you hit 7 figures?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. That's great.
Yeah. And so
that's
it really
awesome.
came after the ambassador program. And so that's why we went so heavy with it first, because that was the real pillar and the driver of the brand. And then once we saw and figured out paid acquisition and Facebook, Instagram, then it just kept scaling up a lot quicker from there.
And I'm sure with that community that you'd already built of followers and engaged profiles on Instagram and Facebook, it probably made it incredibly easier to actually create those audiences to drive cold ads to once you did start doing performance marketing.
Definitely. I mean, at that time, one of the biggest challenges was more on the operational side, making sure that we had enough inventory to keep in stock.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Times are obviously different with Facebook and ad costs and everything else going up and where it is now. And so compared to then, that was probably one of the biggest challenges. Whereas now it's, how do we expand these other pillars? Like, how do we expand more experience-based, more events, focus more on product extensions and things like that.
So when you say, product extensions makes sense. When you say sort of events, that sounds like it's an extension of kind of what you've done with the ambassador program and continue to build out community. What are you guys testing or working on now from an event standpoint, or other ways to expand that same sort of community strategy that you started with?
Yeah. So we, over the years, we've done a number of beach cleanups here and there. And that's one of the things is really, partnering more with our nonprofits. And so we work with a number of nonprofits all around the world that range from beach cleanups to policy work to animal rescues and releases. And so one part of the events is going to be really aligning ourselves even more with them to set up more regular cleanups all around the country as a way to not only help out, but also to drive our followers, drive our customers, drive our ambassadors out to these charity events, out to do good and experience SandCloud in that sense too.
So is it the idea just sort of live events that would be for any customers? Is it just for the ambassadors, or are you just trying to, so explain about who would be coming to the events?
Yeah. So it's going to be for everyone. Like from our end, we're going to talk about it. We're going to promote it to our current audience, and then also the idea is to reach new people in the communities that have never heard about SandCloud before, and have them experience it through through a cleanup, through a release, like through these different events.
That's awesome. No, I'm curious to sort of see that kind of roll out. The idea of reinvesting in community is something that I think not talked about enough. I think the brands that are really looking to grow and understand that CAC is going through the roof are really looking at ways to build community. But I think it's something that's not on the roadmap of enough brands that are kind of at that early 7-figure level when they really should be building that base of a community. And I think events and live events is a great way to do it. We had a similar conversation with the CEO and founder of a brand called Taft, who's doing something very similar with so as opposed to saying, hey, look, we just need to be investing more and more and more in performance marketing. We know we've got a great social following. We've had a ton of success on social. How can we take that same model and how can we bring it into the real world, right? Off just the platforms with things like events or even just sort of small meetups, things that really build that community and build the conversations that people then go out and continue to talk about the brand and share it with friends. So this idea around, actual human interaction that is offline, that is then driving sales online is something that I think is extremely fascinating and something more brands should be looking at.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And we're looking at, the way that we view it and the way that we look at it is building this, building an offline community as well. Like having more touch points where people can actually go in, feel the products, see it, experience SandCloud. And so another area that we're looking at is testing out pop-up shops. And so we're going to be rolling out some pop-ups in some of our key zip codes, key areas, as another way to experience it.
Hey crew, just a quick interruption to ask if you like what you are hearing and want more. Perhaps even a weekly digest of what's working today in the world of e-commerce. Every week, our team of strategists compile a single email with growth strategies and operations tactics gleaned from our work with and analysis of today's top performing brands. Think of it as the brand operator's cheat sheet to keep you ahead of the curve and ahead of the competition. Just head over to thecommercelab.com. That's thecommercelab.com to sign up.
What I want to do is let's sort of shift gears here for a second and let's talk about some of the other inflection points that helped you guys get to where you are now. I know you guys are doing kind of, call it upper 7 figures in revenue now. So you guys have grown significantly in 5 years. I also know that you guys were on Shark Tank. I'd like to hear just a little bit about, how did you guys decide to pursue Shark Tank? Kind of what made that, how'd you guys make the decision? Like, was it just something that one day you're like, hey, look, let's go on Shark Tank? Did somebody come reach out to you guys, or what sort of drove that decision? And then, how did that play into helping you guys kind of get from the early 7-figure mark up to where you are now?
Yeah. So we actually, the three of us, we've probably seen every single Shark Tank episode, at least up until the point that we got on, and we were obsessed with the show. So for us, it was always something that, we thought about and we wanted. And one of my co-founders, Brandon, his uncle was on the show a couple years prior to when we were. And so that right there kind of helped us with some insight to Shark Tank. And so we actually applied. We applied every year since being in business. And then every year we got a little bit closer, but ultimately they were like, you guys aren't ready yet, yada, yada. And so, what was it? I think the like 2.5 years in, they finally accepted us. We made it all the way through, and then it's this long process of, paperwork and pitching and pitching both to the producers, even before you get to the executive producers, before you eventually get to the show. So for us, it was, just round after round after round and just practicing and all these steps to even get there. But getting on the show, getting on Shark Tank, I think is, in terms of PR, it's the ultimate PR. It's the ultimate thrust because you have this, 7 to 10 minute segment in front of millions of viewers all over the country that see your brand, that are exposed to it, that are vested in it. Either they're cheering you on or cheering against you, depending on what it is. And for us, it was a huge route. It was huge in just in terms of like the PR and kind of getting the brand out there.
Did you guys do anything, specific to prep for sort of the Shark Tank show? I'm assuming you guys already anticipated an influx of, traffic to the brand and sales, and probably needed to prep on the inventory side. But did you guys do anything specific to, set up, specific landing pages or email flows or anything on those lines that were meant to, kind of help capitalize on that PR?
Yeah. So definitely looking back, not as much as we could have, but we had a couple of things set up. Like our website was themed for it. We were actually running a Shark Tank promo during that night. So anyone that came over, I think it was like 15% off, 20% off from Shark Tank. And so instantly people would know they were in the right place, and then to help with some sales. But in terms of like a full email sequence and landing pages, we didn't really have any of that set up. That wasn't something that we were really thinking of. We were more focused on, getting the inventory in there, making sure that, with Shopify that our site wasn't going to go down. And then really just practicing the pitch and just perfecting it.
And you guys got funded on the show, right?
We did. Yeah. So we partnered with Robert. He's been great. He's on the team. He's still part of it today.
That's awesome. Have you guys been able to, so since that, and what date did that air?
So that aired in early 2017.
Okay. All right. So that's been, 2.5 years or so since. Did you notice a distinguishable sort of trajectory change, after that, or was it just a really nice bump, in sales for the year?
It was kind of a mix because we were already starting to pick up traction then, because that was around the same time that we really figured out paid acquisition and Facebook and Instagram ads. Mm-hmm. And so we were already starting to see that huge spike. And then this was it was a huge bump within really figuring out paid acquisition. So it helped it helped scale it up even quicker.
Yeah. Just compounded.
But yeah, it was hard. It was hard to necessarily segment exactly what was from which, but overall there was a huge spike between paid and then also, also Shark Tank.
Gotcha. Okay. So it sounds like you guys had figured out paid. So that was probably the sort of the second big lever, outside of ambassadors. Then Shark Tank gave you a boost. What else have you guys seen that's just worked incredibly well, over the last 5 years? And then also what hasn't worked? Like what stuff has just been like a total bomb that's been, and when I say things that you've tested or tried for growth, meaning, on the customer acquisition sales side, what have you guys tried to grow the overall, sales side of the business that you've seen work really well, and things that you haven't seen work? Yeah.
So we've tested a lot of different channels, a lot of different things, and most of them do not work. Some kind of crash and burn and don't work at all. And then some, kind of limp along, you make some money back. But as far as ones that have really, really performed well, I think a big one that we've invested in has been really focused on the brand side, focused on kind of the storytelling and like what's special about our brand, like bringing people in. And so investing in content, investing in, like funny videos that, tell our story or founder story. Like we've had a lot of success with videos. We've had multiple viral ones that have millions and millions of views. I think one video that we made right now it's got over 10 million views. And so investing in content has been one it's been one of the big successes that we've had. Aside from that,
do you guys do that in-house? Do you do content production in-house?
We do. So we do it in a few different ways. We have in-house videographers and photographers, and we also contract out different videographers all around the world. And so it helps us get a blend of stuff without just being completely one one setting or one voice. We've been able to showcase it in multiple ways from working with so many people.
And when you mentioned sort of these viral videos and sort of more kind of funny, content, who's crafting, the strategy around that? Because it's difficult to create a viral video, right? And there's probably lots of ideas that need to be thrown out and be tested, see what works. Who's sort of driving the creative? It makes sense you've got sort of videographers in house, but who's driving who's sort of the brainchild behind what type of content you shoot and create?
Yeah. So honestly, it's been a mix. Like anytime someone has a good idea, someone has an idea that they want to run with, they have full autonomy to make it happen and to work with videographers, make it happen. But we have some employees that really focus on, seeing what's out there, seeing what people kind of respond to, see what's working well and, in other viral videos. And then how can we apply that same, framework into making something for us? And so a good example being, do you remember the squatty potty video?
Yeah.
That thing just was absolute marketing gold. It got, hundreds of millions of views. And so like something engaging and funny and, capturing someone's attention and then showcasing the value and like what you're about and telling your story. That's been kind of the framework of what we've seen work really well.
So it sounds like it's not like you guys have just like a content team in house. And it sounds like you have a couple of people who focus on that, but it's really anybody on the team who has a concept or an idea, and you guys sort of foster that where you say, hey, look, if you've got something you want to try, go for it. Let's hire a videographer. Let's get the script written and let's just run with it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. I think that takes sort of a special sort of foresight from the founding team, the executive team to put that together and sort of let people kind of follow their own creative passion and just test things. I think that's fantastic. So content, right? So content has been probably the, outside of kind of what we've talked about already, content's been sort of that next big lever. What are you guys kind of looking, going forward as you guys are aiming at that next big revenue milestone? What are you guys looking at right now as things you haven't tested yet that you're interested in testing? I know we talked a little about events. Aside from that, where are you guys focusing your attention or areas that you want to start focusing attention on?
Yeah. So, a couple of the things we're actually focused on right now that we're looking to help drive us, to those next milestones is focusing more on, strategic partnerships. So focused on growing wholesale, growing retail with stores that fit our brand. That's a big thing that's going to help us get there. And so it's again, kind of speaking back to the point of, how can people experience SandCloud? How can they find out about us? How can we just have more touch points, especially as online costs get more and more expensive. And we see retail being a huge driver for that. So that's one right there. And then another one is in terms of kind of key partnerships and collaborations is influencers and, working with different influencers that are really authentic to our brand. And so ones that deeply care about marine life, ones that care about sustainability, live that beach lifestyle, live that kind of wanderlust spirit. Those are the people that we want to work with because they're ultimately going to be the representations for a brand more so than, even the founding team can, because we're oftentimes, either in meetings or online or doing some sort of work here and there. So really finding those key people that kind of be the face of the brand and investing in that sense.
Have you guys gone the influencer route before? Have you guys tried that in the past?
We've tested a lot of things with influencers. and we've figured out a lot of what doesn't work.
Yep. Okay.
I'll put it that way. And so I would say probably the biggest thing that definitely does not work is just finding someone that has a ton of followers and paying them to just post.
Yep.
That does not work. That is probably one of the biggest things that we saw just flop, because I think a big thing is that like people are smart and they're really catching on to like what's happening, and what's actually authentic, what's not. I feel like back in the day, if you just got like one of the Jenners or Kardashians to post, instantly your brand would blow up. But now it's more, if it's not something that they would actually use or not something that is authentic to the brand, it's almost meaningless. And people are hit with so many ads from online, from paid, from influencers just posting about things nonstop. And so people tune out really, really quickly. And so since you only have, a couple seconds to catch someone's attention, it's got to be something that, is truly authentic.
And you've got to make sure that the audience of that influencer is actually congruent with your brand story, right? And going to connect with it.
100%.
This sort of the talk around sort of micro influencers, instead of taking those large budgets and applying them to, like the Kendalls and Jenners of the world, applying that across a wider pool of micro influencers. Is that something you guys have tried yet, or is that sort of what you're looking to do more of?
So that we kind of look at that being almost an extension of our ambassador program.
Got it.
And so we've done a bit of it, and typically with micro influencers, we've done a lot of like just seeding products. And so we have a team of people that just their whole job is just outreaching daily to find these micro influencers that fit the brand, that maybe have a few thousand followers but are trendsetters in their area, and then just reach out and send them products to share.
It is. So it sounds very similar to what you've done with your ambassador program, which has worked, and it makes complete sense. And you guys already have the model of building community. So it sounds like building a community of these influencers would be sort of the next logical step.
Exactly.
How about other sort of paid performance channels? Is there anything that you guys see working that you've tested? I know a lot of brands that we work with and talk with have seen a lot of success with things like Snapchat recently. Have you guys tested Snapchat or any other channels off of the just standard Google, Facebook, Instagram platforms?
Yeah, so we've been testing. We've tested Snap here and there. It hasn't performed as well for us, so we're revamping our Snap strategy right now. But one that we've seen pretty good success with has been YouTube ads.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So investing
there makes sense. You guys are producing great content.
Exactly. The videos, especially that we're creating, building that channel, we're seeing a lot of cheap traffic and pretty much hits on our site from YouTube right now. Very
cool. Yeah. And I've been hearing the same thing too amongst a lot of folks we work with. So that's, I'm glad that's working for you guys. So this has been really, really great, Stephen. I think we've pulled out some awesome insights that kind of what's driven your growth over the last 5 years. And sort of heading towards wrapping up, I wanted to kind of shift gears a little bit and ask more kind of on an individual basis, for you, and even if you want to sort of speak to some of the other kind of co-founders, on the SandCloud team. Obviously there's things you do to build the brand, but at the end of the day, you can't do any of that if you're not performing on a daily basis. I'd be curious to know, like over the last 5 years, obviously there's tons of ups and downs, building a company from the beginning. What have you found as sort of like, things that you kind of turn to, or daily routines, or, habits that you've sort of developed as a founder to kind of make sure you're kind of playing at your peak level? Have you sort of adopted, any sort of standard routines or daily routines or anything like that help you perform?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones is honestly, it's working out. It's working out and doing that. I mean, doing that almost daily. That's a huge thing for me, and even for the other founders, whether it's, playing sports or just going to the gym, doing yoga. Those are all things that we've found to kind of help balance us, or help us really think and stay creative and be more productive. So that's huge. And then I think reading with audiobooks, Audible, podcasts, always listening to those pretty much every day, just to kind of see what's out there, see what people are finding success with, learning. And I mean, those right there, honestly, the biggest ones. It's just doing something every day to stay active, and then reading and learning something new every day.
What are you reading right now or listening to right now? Anything noteworthy that you'd recommend?
Let's see. There was a good book I just read. It was called Pitch Anything. So Pitch Anything, it was really good. It was really about kind of all about negotiations and framing conversations. And one of the things that we're going through right now is we're fundraising. And so it's incredibly relevant into that as well.
Pitch Anything. All right. I'll look that one up. How about podcasts? What, any sort of standards you listen to all the time?
One of my personal favorites is How I Built This.
Yeah, that's a great one.
That's probably my favorite podcast.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a fan of that one also. This was great, Stephen. Would love to sort of check in with you guys here, down the road also, kind of see how things continue to go. But I know you guys have just been on a tear the last 5 years. So thanks for coming on the show and sharing all the insights. Definitely.
No, appreciate it. Good to be here. I love what you're doing with the podcast and kind of building the community and getting that content out there. It's great.
That's the plan. We're trying to get other founders, like you to help share and pull a community around this, so everybody can kind of learn from everybody's mistakes and wins, and just kind of help the tide keep on rising.
I love it.
Hey crew, it's Alan Bird again. And real quick before you go, would you like a weekly digest of what's working today in the world of consumer-facing e-commerce? Every week, our team of strategists compile a single email with growth strategies and operations tactics that help you stay ahead of the curve and ahead of the competition. Think of it as the brand operator's cheat sheet. Just head over to thecommercelab.com to sign up.